Welcome to the 21st century. We will take a look at how politics, culture, and people have impacted education from 2000 to 2009. After the ball dropped, everyone sighed with relief when they saw that their televisions were still broadcasting and their computers turned on. However, the joy didn't last for long. In March, the dot-com boom turned to bust, and the stock market began a fast slide. There were some bright spots for education that year. Dora the Explorer debuted on Nickelodeon. This show featured a Latino character who was bilingual. It offered a balance to many states' efforts to ban bilingual education with bills like the proposed Colorado English Education Initiative, Arizona's Proposition 213, and California's Proposition 227. Although a few of those bills passed, they were overturned fairly quickly. In 2000, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was formed. Since its inception, the foundation has granted millions of dollars to educational causes across the country in an attempt to revolutionize education. Hillsborough County Schools, located in Tampa, Florida, received a $100 million grant from the Gates Foundation to develop an effective teaching program. At the beginning of 2001, the country was recovering from the election debacle of George W. Bush, with much of the country still upset with Florida and their Chad-ridden voting cards. As the 43rd President of the United States, Mr. Bush was preparing to forever change education with the No Child Left Behind Act. However, before this could happen, an earth-shattering event rocked the United States of America on September 11th. America was attacked, and this changed the trajectory of our country. One such immediate change was the enactment of the Patriot Act, which had far-reaching consequences. In particular, this act impacted colleges and universities, especially those who served foreign students. All was not bad news, though, in 2001. There was a lot of good things happening in the digital world, including the introduction of the iPod and the launch of Wikipedia. Wikipedia is an open-source encyclopedia written by an army of volunteers. Although some argue Wikipedia has peaked, they were a major supplier of information throughout the first decade of the new century. Unfortunately, teachers today still struggle with students regarding the appropriate use of Wikipedia in the classroom. 2002 ushered in a new era in education. President Bush signed into law the 2001 No Child Left Behind Act. McReynolds called it the most sweeping federal education legislation in our nation's history. The act has both supporters and detractors. For example, Bland contended that the resulting race-based achievement goals violated the Equal Protection Clause. Moonen and Pompey found that teachers seemed to agree in principle with the concept of the act, but were troubled by the constraints of implementation. This is consistent with what Diane Ravitch found when she originally supported the act, but found problems through implementation. NCLB was not the only game changer for education in 2002. The state of Michigan decided to require all public school students to complete at least 20 hours of online education as a graduation requirement. This paved the way for many other states to follow. Just a short decade later, Florida followed suit, requiring adding an online component to their high school graduation requirements. 2003 began with the best of times and the worst of times. In April, the Human Genome Project was completed. Collins and his colleagues identified the completion of this project as a landmark event. This didn't end genome research. Instead, it opened up opportunities, leading to more opportunities for STEM students. On the flip side, the New York Times experienced some very dark days after discovering one of their reporters was plagiarizing some stories and in other cases simply making up his reports. This led to a renewed interest in ethically using information for students and revised plagiarism policies at many colleges and universities. Education-related news was not restricted to this side of the pond. In 2003, Britain acknowledged British Sign Language as an official British language. Timmermans suggested that accepting sign language as a native language is a sign of cultural wealth. However, in America, sign language is still identified as a foreign language, and in many cases, students can take sign language to fulfill college foreign language requirements. At the beginning of 2004, many people did not get to hear "You've got mail" as a serious computer virus impacted more than 1 million computers' email accounts. However, the virus didn't slow down Mark Zuckerberg. The next month, he unveiled Facebook at Harvard. Facebook was originally intended as an online tool for Harvard classmates and alumni to connect. Today, Facebook has over 1 billion monthly active users, with only 20% of this activity coming from the United States. Facebook significantly impacted digital technology and the social media landscape. I would imagine that Ron Page was glad Facebook was in its infancy when he made his faux pas. In a private meeting with governors, Page, then Secretary of Education, made an off-the-cuff comment comparing the National Education Association to terrorist organizations. This comment circles back to frustration on both sides with NCLB. However, name-calling is not usually a successful negotiating tactic, and in this case, words really did hurt. In 2005, several teachers and students in the South were impacted by Hurricane Katrina and Rita. Many families decided not to return to the area. Jacobs had pointed out the difficulties this disaster had presented, including trying to get school records, aligning courses between states, and negotiating graduation requirements for matriculating seniors. In 2005, inspired by Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction, YouTube was born. The founders posted their first video in April. In September, Nike posted an advertisement on YouTube that went viral with over 1 million hits. This propelled the company, and they were able to secure some venture capital to open the site up to everyone. As an instructor today, I use YouTube's videos on a weekly basis, both as a consumer and creator of videos. There were some interesting developments on the education front, too. In an attempt to stay relevant, the SAT, a test synonymous with college entrance, went through some major changes, including adding an essay portion, removing the word analogies, and upping the challenge level of the math portion. This was in response to colleges considering doing away with the test, or at least not making it a requirement. Interestingly, the original intent of the SAT was to open doors for students left out of the highly selective pre-World War II college admissions process. However, today, the test seems to have the opposite effect. On the other end of the education spectrum, pre-K and elementary schools reacted to a new book that was published called And Tango Makes Three, about two mommy penguins and a baby penguin. This book quickly rose to the top of the most banned book list and even today continues to spark controversy. In 2006, the galaxy lost a member of the planet family. Pluto was demoted. Briner found this had an immediate impact on classrooms across America. First, there were books, both text and library, that were immediately rendered out of date. Additionally, teachers were struggling to understand Pluto's new place in the universe and be able to explain it to their students. I wonder if they could do it in under 140 characters. If so, there was a new player in town called Twitter, where they could have tweeted about Pluto. Twitter actually began as more of a text messenger service or SMS system, but quickly evolved into the go-to place for news, global, local, and even pop. Both the president and the Pope participate on Twitter, and so do a number of educators, institutions of learning, and other education-related industries. Twitter is part of the growing digital literacy toolbox. 2006 was no stranger to school violence, unfortunately. In fact, over 1 week period, there were 3 different school shootings. The most shocking occurred in an Amish school, where 5 girls were killed and several more injured. Unfortunately, this has become the new reality for schools, and the cost of keeping students safe is stretching already thin budgets. Augustine captured the sentiments of the 2007's big event best in the title of his New York Times piece, "And then Steve said, 'Let there be an iPhone.'" The Steve he was referring to was Steve Jobs, who managed to single-handedly change how we communicate overnight. The iPhone is more than simply a phone. For many people, it has replaced all of their other digital devices. Schools, both K-12 and higher ed, are constantly battling over the appropriate use of cell phones in the classroom. Recently, a communications professor decided to ban all cell phones in his classroom. The verdict is still out, but for me, I prefer to integrate this new technology opposed to banning it. In addition to First, 2007 had some finals too, with the last installment of the Harry Potter series going on sale in July. Thousands of loyal fans flocked to bookstores. This series forever changed children's literature, and in particular, the Generation Y's reading habits. It also renewed reading as a family affair, as many adults simultaneously read Harry Potter along with their children. Just as people got used to carrying around the large 800-page Harry Potter books, Amazon introduced a way to keep your entire library in the palm of your hand with their new Kindle e-reader. However, many schools decided to jump on the bandwagon a little too fast and it ended up in legal trouble. The original Kindle was not ADA compliant, and the National Association of the Blind filed suits to stop the use of Kindle on campuses nationwide. Although Brown v. the Board of Education happened over 50 years ago, the topic of desegregation and school integration is still a hot topic. In the case of Parents Involved in Community Schools v. Seattle School District No. 1, the plaintiffs suggested they were a victim of reverse discrimination, and the court actually agreed, stating that no one should be precluded from a school based on race. I'm not sure this issue will be resolved in my lifetime. In 2008, the United States stock market experienced the largest single-day loss ever, dropping just shy of 800 points and losing $1.2 trillion of value. This had a rippling effect across the economy, from individual investments to large funds that support universities and other philanthropic efforts. Unfortunately, many individuals lost their jobs as a result of the crash or needed to find a new career. In 2008, MOOCs, also known as Massive Open Online Courses, became available, which allowed individuals to participate in courses on a variety of topics from the comfort of their home. Courses are often offered free by major universities. However, today, edX and other platforms are looking for ways to allow individuals to pay to receive credit for the courses they complete. Since Harry Potter, children's literature has been changing. In 2008, we saw another huge shift when a 500-plus book titled The Invention of Hugo Cabret won the Caldecott Award, which is usually reserved for picture books. In Selznick's acceptance speech, he said that we were still debating the definition of a picture book. However, he closed in saying, "However we choose to define or label them, I think the most important thing to remember is that kids want good books with good stories. We need to give children the books they want, and the books that they don't yet know they want." On January 20th, 2009, our country experienced a historic event when our first African American president was inaugurated. Later that year, he would begin to usher in some new education programs, including Race to the Top. However, President Obama was not the only one breaking through glass ceilings. In 2009, Sonia Sotomayor became the first Hispanic Supreme Court justice. At the conclusion of his first year in office, President Obama rolled out his Race to the Top plan for schools, dangling $4.35 billion of grant money as incentives for schools to compete. Unfortunately, this doesn't seem to be the magic bullet we were all looking for either. Well, a lot has happened during the first decade of the 21st century. I wonder what the end of the second decade of the 21st century will look at. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and can see how seemingly unrelated events can significantly impact the education landscape.